Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another little fencing coaching chat between myself and Mads Hejrskov. Say hi, Mads.
Hi there. Hi there.
Okay, so last week we talked about defenders' options, right? Active defense. So we'll do a quick recap of that, and then we'll continue on by talking about what the attacker can do to defeat the active defense.
Yes. The core of the active defense is that when being attacked, you take half a step closer to the opponent and closing the line. For example, if many people preparing, they're showing like a flick action from the quad, and you show with the point, you're closing the quad. Now the distance being shorter, if the opponent is changing the line, you have a very good chance of parrying him. He has very little space of making another disengage. If he's pushing himself through, you can block because you're already there in the line. If he's changing the line too fast, you can block with the change line. If he's going for the broken time attack by pulling his arm back, you can either stop it and accelerate away from him, or you can block him there as well, depending on how fast he does it. That's the basic structure, that you're forcing him to react on your move into his preparation. And from there you go.
Yeah, so you're trying to, although they're attacking, they're not leading the action, right? You're trying to lead the action as a defense to try to take the initiative. Okay, yes, but no attacker's gonna like that. So
no, that's the idea. The idea with both attack and defense, and this is like what we're going to talk about, is that you try to get into the head of the opponent. You're trying to force him or her to react on whatever you're doing, and by stepping into the preparation, closing the distance a little, not too much, because you need to be able to give yourself options backwards as well. So not too close, but close enough and fast enough to force him a reaction from him. That be either disengage or acceleration or broken time. That's the idea, that you force him to react or her. And of course, having said that, the target for the attacker is to counter that and forcing a reaction that gives you the chance to hit your opponent. So this is what we're going to talk about, the options you have there. Given that you have you're meeting this kind of active defense, of course, there are several ways of defending, like Richard Cruz, defending from a long distance and using his mobility as the main force of his defense, but from a larger distance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so assuming that we're meeting an active defense.
Yes. I mean, you have some options. Let's just start with the two like simplest options. One is when you're getting closer, and I'm going to use my sticks again. When the distance is getting closer, here, you're decelerating because the opponent already reacted. He showed that he wanted to parry. If you're decelerating, you have the time to get around him. And even if he's trying to, you still have the time to go back. So you see that. I would mention especially a guy like Garotsu. He's like almost standing still, but still he has some forward movement in his body that gives him the time and space to get around.
Okay, so the little pitter-patter footwork technique, almost going nowhere.
Like just sliding the body forward. You see some of the great attackers, they have no orthodoxy in how they use their feet in their footwork. They start with the body moving, sliding their hips forward, or they start with the back leg. They take half step forward. This way, forcing themselves, pushing themselves a little closer without actually getting closer. You can start like half step, and then you can show with the arm some movement away from the parry, away from the opponent's blade, forcing him or her to change the line again. So this way, you have actually pushed yourself into the head of the defender as well. It takes a lot of discipline to believe that you're still in the attack there, because suddenly the distance is close. So you really have to show the activity either with hand or with body, or the half step with the back leg, or as you see so many people do, the half step forward where you actually don't move your body, but you just putting. But we cannot do that too much, because the convention now more and more with the referees is that if you take, for example, 2 half steps without moving the back leg, it's considered a lunge. So this way you can actually get there.
Wow. Okay.
Things are getting tough because but you see some people there like moving the feet.
Yeah. Yes, it's very popular. Yes.
Yes. And what is that? Is that an attack? I mean, if we agree that in the convention the longest attack is a step lunge, what is this? It's like taking 3 half steps forward. What is that? It's not a step lunge. If you're doing something from this position, that's it's a remise. It's like something else. So they are borderline, and like everything, especially on the conventional weapons, you will see some borderline examples on what to do. But basically, if you take half step forward, like the most typical example, he's always almost doing it like in a mechanical way, is Chammy Watson. It's like putting his foot forward, and then depending on the situation, he's actually taking quite some time there in that position, and then showing something with the arm, this long, huge arm.
Well, yeah, because he can threaten that attack for a long time from a big distance, right?
Yeah, but he's actually like, he's a very good attacker, and he's very good at looking at this, and he's very good at using his length into making people react, so he can continue to move forward.
Okay, so you said it when we started that you were trying to get yourself into your opponent's mind, but now we're actually getting into 2 people's minds, right? You have to convince your opponent to react, right? You have to convince the referee that you're actually still taking initiative.
Yes, but this is, as my good friend and colleague Beppe Pierucci said once, fencing is about creating an illusion. And this is what you do. This is the illusion that you're, to the referee, you're still attacking. It could be the illusion to the opponent, you actually stopped your attack. The people looking from the other angle can see you're still moving forward. Or the illusion that you want to hit in a certain angle. What you really want is for the opponent to go into this, to protect this angle. Yes. But these are like, this is always the game. It's some kind of dialogue.
And you're also talking about, I guess, footwork feints. So not only feinting with your hand, right? But bringing the back foot up, but not really gaining any distance.
Yes.
Pushing the body forward while not actually moving your feet, so not really gaining any distance.
Yeah.
And with some extension of the hand, so trying to sort of, take the initiative and look like you're attacking, but not really move because you don't want to be cramped.
Yes, exactly. And the second part of this is to always, if you have the points here, always try and move your point away from where he's blocking the line. If he's showing that he wants to block in quad, you can go the other way and always try and move it away from. So this way, trying to open the spaces, making his defending area larger, basically. That's one part of it. Of course, if he's prepared, he will be cool. He will play with distance as well, like taking another half step forward or taking half step back, trying to invite you to accelerate your attack.
Yep.
This is my personal favorite. But the other option you have is actually to play along with it and just finish your attack short, thus forcing him into making a parry and getting ready for the counter parry.
Okay, so deliberately ending your attack and setting a second intention.
Yeah, actually, playing a little counter time game. Yes, the other way is that you push hard forward, like you make very short acceleration, one step, like while moving the point away from his defending line, in order to make him go backwards. If he goes backwards, because we have to accept when we are talking about attacking and defending, we have to accept the fact that we are not 100% concentrated and focused all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the game you see sometimes between the best fencers. You see very long, like, kinds of stalemate where they're going backwards and forward, leaving the initiative to the other and trying to make short attacks. And they're focused this way, they're in balance, and they can't really hurt each other because they outweigh each other, so to say.
Yeah. I heard something in another interview with an American coach that I watched that I think you're going to like. Because normally you hear fencing described as physical chess, right?
Mm.
But that's not true, right? On chess, you can see the board, you know what's happening. He described it as physical poker. Everyone is constantly, I've got some of the cards, you've got some of them, I don't know what they are. What are my odds? So all this moving around is everyone is, are my odds good? Right, now it's time for my action. Are my odds good? No, I'm going back, right?
Mm.
And the person that wins is normally the one who, when the odds are in their favor, they make the right action.
Yeah. Or they actually force the opponents into playing.
Playing where they don't want to play.
Yes, and this is like a good example is like when you see cadet fencers and younger fencers who are not really developed tactically. They're perhaps feeling more comfortable with the defense, and then they're like getting a few hits away, and they're becoming passive because I'd rather defend, and then they lose the match. Because the best defenders in the world, they all play a very active game. And they always make the opponent feel they're actually making attacks every now and then, not maybe because they want to hit. Of course, it's good if they can hit once or twice. It's giving this feeling of discomfort at the opponent. But what they want to do is always try and stress the opponent into making stupid attacks so they can play the defensive trump.
Well, I mean, if you look at how fencers train, right? If you just decide to stand step lunge away from the guy you're trying to parry, they've had 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 lessons where they're just no. If you're not putting any stress on them, they're just gonna execute their skills perfectly. Yes. And I mean, you might get some of the parries, but up to 15, I don't like your chances there.
But the other option, and which is an important one, and I'm like leaning towards some of my favorite attackers, is the timing. And again, you need to play the fake attacks to get into the mind of the opponent, to think, when is the real attack coming? And you're seeing from the best attackers, you will see a lot of those short attacks, just ending up short and into a parry, but still with enough distance so they can retreat, they can recover and protect themselves. Or they finish just deep enough so they can actually make a counter parry riposte. But the idea is, the purpose of this is to make the opponent guess when is the real attack coming. Sometimes you see the best attackers, like they're not even caring for making disengage or something. They're just like waiting, and when they feel the timing is right, they just go straight. You see, for example, Yakarotsu again, I will mention him as an example, but also Enzo Lefort, who's world champion. Sometimes he's investing, he's very active. Suddenly, sometimes he's just attacking straight, like boom, and and it looks great. And the secret is the opponent doesn't know when the lunge is coming, because he's been seeing so many short attacks, so many preparations and stuff like that. So he doesn't really know when the real one is coming.
Well, that means that the preparation and everything must be absolutely identical, right?
Yes.
No way to tell between the fake attacks, the short ones, the real ones, right? Until it's that must take a lot of physical preparation, a lot of.
It does. It does. But as again, it's a game of focus. Fencing. It's very much. It's about making sure that because you have to realize about yourself, you're not fully focused all the time. So when you know you need some time to refocus and recalibrate, you have a safe distance. Like you can put yourself into a situation where you can like give yourself this. It's not even a second. It's like tenths of seconds just to like, okay, what's going on here? And then again, you have to watch. You have to push your opponent. So when you see suddenly he's reacting, he's losing the control of the distance, then you can finish. And if you always feed him with stimuli, like short attacks, stops, and where you can, for example, now it's very popular, you make short push, and just as the opponent thinks you've stopped, you beat his blade and continue, and thereby gaining ground, executed properly. Suddenly, the defender will have like very little space to defend.
It's actually really close to actually identical to saber tactics.
Yeah,
when they won't move, you just boom, and then because the distance is so tight, they have to go back a lot. Otherwise, they're going to get touched, and you just take up some distance.
Yeah, exactly. But this is for me. It's always like making those pushes. Is you can say it's not so difficult, but really attacking for me has always been like amazing, so fascinating when people can, because it takes so much focus. I spoke with the Italian coach who's now working in Germany, Giovanni Bottolato, and one of his keys when he talked about, like we talked about last week, the entry, when you actually enter this distance where you're becoming a threat to the opponent. And said we had a discussion with me, him, and my friend and colleague Andrei Bakum from Ukraine, now works in Sweden as well. And the conclusion from him was that you simply do not go into this distance. You don't enter this distance unless you're focused. You have to be completely focused when you're going in there. Thus you sense, if you are completely focused, you sense if the opponent is not. And that, I think everybody who fenced, they have had this experience that you could see suddenly the opponent was losing half a step, or showing a parry, committing to a parry, or committing to a counter attack. And then you don't even think about it. You just know, okay, this is my moment. You go for it.
All right.
But that only if you're focused, and this is the point. You need to, when you go into this distance, if you're not feeling completely focused, you shouldn't enter, or you should like enter this distance with like just with the intention of continuing, for example, with a beat continuing attack.
Okay.
And then I don't think you can be that focused all the time. This is also where you don't see people, at least after what they changed the system back in 2004-05 for the 2005 season. I mean, I remember fencing with Casala with the old system, where he finished me off 15-3 in I think 1 minute 30 seconds or something by attacking non-stop. But but from even now he can still finish from the most incredible angles. He's kind of unique in so many ways. How he is actually is partly due to some technique. He spoke with his coach about that, but partly due to the fact that he has a unique mind when it comes to that.
Yeah, but back then you could almost hit from anywhere, right? I mean, the closing time was tiny, and
and you only needed to touch with the point. Now it has to be pushed down for, I don't know the difference, but it has to be pushed down for some time.
I mean, I know it took a season or a season and a half to adjust, but I think all foil was better for the change, right? I mean, it was.
I'm still like having my reservations. I think there are many factors. I mean, basically, we needed to do something with foil, though I still do miss this dynamics of the old fencing, where it was like more like pom 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 pom. You saw these attacks and counter attacks and deep attacks on the entire piece, and then the other way.
I don't know. maybe I'm biased, but when I watch four now, I see a nice mixture of attacks, interruption attacks or counters, whatever you want to call them, and power riposts.
Yeah, but
I like it more, but
yeah, but I think there are many factors. I mean, I'm in favor of foil changing a little, but I think another factor that has made a contribution is that the level of refereeing is today, and the general level of refereeing is higher. I mean, you have to consider that those days you brought your own referee, and if you're 5 fences or more from the country, there was no GP list or something. So if you fenced a World Cup I remember fencing in St. Petersburg in 2001, and at that year nobody came to St. Petersburg. It was only Israel, Belgium, France, and Russia, basically, and then Denmark, of course. But when we reached the last 8 of the last 16, I think it was last 8, the organizers, they came and asked our former Russian national coach if he could provide any referees. So I ended up refereeing a quarterfinal in a World Cup and that was 4 years prior to me having my license. I refereed Nasibulin against Ferrari, suddenly in last 8 in World Cup. I didn't even know the rules. And that wasn't uncommon. That wasn't too uncommon in those days. I think the right guy won that match, but it's a gambling, I think.
Well, they gambled and they won because you have a good feeling for whose right of way it is, right?
Yeah, at least no one.
But they weren't to know, right? They weren't to know that.
No, exactly. And
inside, you have the feeling. It's just some guy.
Yeah, but you ended up sometimes at World Cups where you had some referees who maybe had an FIA license, but they hadn't been refereeing for ages, and normally they were épée specialists, but they had the foil license, and suddenly you saw then. And this was, now it's been homogulated a lot more. So now there's some, and also because we are like on the list, we talk to each other in the referee community, and we send videos to each other and discuss what's going on and what about this situation. And, of course, we still make mistakes, but everybody does. But I think there's a more general idea of how the fencing should be done. In the past, it was like if you had a French referee, everything was about the hand. If you had a Russian referee, it was very much about the flow, and an Italian referee, it was about the illusion and sometimes the legs. But there were like so many different ways of considering fencing. I remember like suddenly everything I did was preparation, and of course you had to adapt to that. But it was the difference was so huge at that time. Back in the
well, I mean that goes back to what you said almost in the first 5 minutes of our chat, right? Is that you're also convincing the referee that what you're doing is correct, right? So
yes, it is.
Now no, go right ahead, Mads. Sorry.
Yeah, but at least the referees will think more the same. Of course, we are different people, so we will still. Nobody will referee exactly like the other, but because we are different people. Sometimes our eyes are like this or that, but it's about creating. It's about convincing the referee, and basically, when you have a call from the referee, which perhaps may or may not be exactly to your expectations, you have to adapt to that. You will get some information. Okay, he's giving the play very much for the attacker all the time, even though I feel I'm before the attacker on the blade. Okay, so I need to create 2 contacts if I want to have something from this. Yeah, that is always focused that you need to understand what the referee is thinking. You can ask him as well. Why not?
All right. Well, actually, maybe that make an interesting topic for next time. How to ask the referee correctly. And get the information right, because a lot of fencers, I mean, they're very passionate about what they're doing, right? So when they ask the ref, it comes across very aggressively, and then you get a negative feeling between the ref and the fencer, when really the fencer just wants to know, I don't understand you. It's not what I trained. How do I fix it, right?
Yeah, but obviously there are good and bad ways of approaching the referees, and we could talk about that. That's what I've been doing for some time.
Yeah, that'd be a nice one. So although we started off talking about technique, right? Also, some of the fencer's job is to convince the ref, right? So
yes.
So I mean that goes back to the fencer's training, the fencer's mindset, also their coach's mindset as well, right? To allow them to do the hits in different ways, to explore rhythms, different distance. Something I talk about with our old friend Giorgio, right? Fencers don't always like their pair exercises, but actually, when you're doing these in pair exercises, it gives you a greater chance to explore different size fences, different timings, right? To understand, it worked, or my coach says it works like this, but it's not working now. Gives you a chance to be more resilient in the head, right? More practiced.
For me now, when how I work in my new club, I think I have never used pair exercises as much as I do now, and I see the value of it, because they to give this feeling of actually to get the reaction from the opponent, for example, by playing simple games for the training. Okay, any blade contact will be for the benefit of the defender, so thus forcing, but then saying the defender cannot attack from the beginning. He can only make parry riposte, or she can only make parry riposte. So you will see these where the attacker is always forced to move the blade away from the defense, who can do whatever he or she wants, make stop hit, or make a counter attack, or make parry riposte. But you will see these situations where the attacker is always pushing, and then creating. The next situation you create, of course, is the opposite. The one who gets the blade contact will always get the hit.
Well, I mean, that's good. That's great training for those days when doesn't matter. I tried to make a beat, but every time I do it, the ref doesn't like it. Right? So
yeah,
right? If you face a situation in club, then you're ready to handle it. Yes,
and you do, and the good part is that you do these exercises with real speed, because you do it with real opponents. It's not like when you're giving a lesson, it's a lesson, and there will be some automatism involved in this. This is actually the purpose, in my opinion, very important purpose of the lesson, is like you train these conditional reflexes.
Yep.
But you use them in the real world in these pair exercises, because you have an opponent who is unpredictable and who will try to break your rhythm and break your distance and break you, basically.
I mean, it's no offense to us coaches, but we're a little older than the rest of the fencers, right? So we can't do the exercise quite as fast. And although we try to add some chaos into the lesson, right, to try to teach a student, other fencers just they're just trying to break the exercise, right? So
but I actually only yesterday I was fencing with a student I have, who's one of the best foilists in Sweden, and I discovered very soon, I could surprise him sometimes, because I was not as slow as he thought, but really when he was focused, there was no way, even if I tried to make my preparation make him finish too deep, but there was no way I could attack him in a way that hurt. I mean, sometimes, of course, he wasn't seeing that I could actually reach him, and I will reach him. But when I tried, he could accelerate away from me whenever he wanted. It was only when he was sloppy I could actually get it with my attacks. And suddenly you could see very, very soon that we both realized that. So basically he was not afraid of leaving me the initiative, because he knew that.
Wow. Okay. All right. Time for bring on a younger person. Come on. Time for pair exercises.
Yeah. But No, but it was good. Actually, just to emphasize your point. No, but it was good because we could talk about his attacking preparations, where I said, like, you're not really getting into me. I mean, I'm still not afraid of your preparation. I made a lot of counterattacks and a lot of parry ripostes. Most parry ripostes were too short because I'm slow and old. But I mean, I stopped his attack, and that was the point of our discussion afterwards. Like I said,
well,
okay,
I
it's very
mean,
easy for me.
you're the coach, so you could just set the rules. Every time I take the parry, I get the point, right?
Yeah, but this was as much fun for me, just fencing
of course.
after a long day of working. So yeah, but I would have added one more thing, and I think I will do that. So when you're attacking, now we talked about the attacking game from the inside, with either slowing down and showing all the false attack. But what you can do now is also like giving yourself space for the broken time attack, which is essential against these kinds of defense. Of course, as we talked about with the defense, you're trying to take that into account by closing the distance, but making those short accelerations, just making the opponent taking half step back. Then you've opened the space, and now you can pull your arm back and making those. So this is what you do with the pushes. Sometimes if you can see if he's not focused, suddenly he will go back. You can actually take half step forward and take step back. Now the distance is opening. Of course, it will leave him time. If he starts immediately in this moment, it's his attack. But if he doesn't start and actually goes back, it's your turn, because he reacted upon your half step back, step forward, the other way, half step forward, step back. If he goes back now, he reacted, it's your turn again. And now you have space. Now you can pull your arm back and attack from the outside, which is what we want, especially if he stopped, believing, okay, what happened? Now it's my time. Now you can go through. But you're taking advantage of the fact that he perhaps was not fully focused. So he actually took the bait and reacted on your half step acceleration and gave you space. It is an option, and you need to try that. But having said that, none of those attacking options are worth much without each other. You need to mix these up. You may have your preferences, but you need to get into the mind of the opponent that you are willing to try all these options. So he will try and guess what's happening now, what's really happening now.
Yeah,
I think that's
if you're always pushing them and then pull your hand back, they're going to fake a half step back, right? And the next thing you know, you're going to be hit with a counter attack in the chest.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Or stop it because you're too close. Yes.
Yep.
You need to mix these things up, and you need to take very much into consideration what is the preferred reaction of the defender.
Yep.
You will see that he will have some, like the attacker, like yourself, he will have some preferences, and you need to take those into account. And when you see that he's actually falling back to those, you will have the feeling that maybe he's a little out of balance, he's a little out of focus, and then you need to switch, because he will do the same this moment, and probably he will react to whatever you do differently. I realize that the discussion about attacking is perhaps a little less like concrete than but then again, I feel as an attacker, you depend so much more on like you yourself being focused, and more focused than the defender. So the key really to becoming an attacking fencer is like you're able to maintaining focus, and when you're not in focus, you have a plan B that doesn't allow the opponent to get too close to you. So you can still have the match under control, perhaps by like making those preparations where you can continue with a beat, and just pushing him and see, and while you're actually what you're trying to disguise is that you're not completely sure what to do, but you're trying to recalibrate and thus buying yourself some time. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, because your focus will go up and down, right? It's sometimes your opponent will be up, you'll be down, you're up, they're down. You've got to find a way to survive those times when they're up and you're down. And
Exactly.
then when they're down and you're up, then it's time to make hay while the sun shines.
Yes.
And then park the bus. Well, actually no, you can't defend too tightly, can you? If you go back, you're done. But
yeah. And you see this. I think you see this mechanism expressed very clearly in saber, because I think in saber you see the fencers, they spend so much more time between the hits than they do in the other weapon, because they know that if you're not ready, if you're not focused when the referee asks you, "Are you ready?" If you're not ready at this moment, you will get hit, and it will be like this in foil and épée. You have a few moments to okay, what's happening now? You still have the chance to get back into the situation. But in saber, if you're not focused when the referee asks you, "Are you focused?" that means you could just as well give the hit immediately. He senses that.
I'm going to suggest that maybe you should be fixing your hair or tying your shoelace at that moment.
Yes.
Something, right? Something.
This is what you see, and this is what you see. Yeah, but in most sabreurs, they're aware of that, and you see them walking around like this and talking to themselves, and it's nothing. It's more or less about just, okay, I need to get back into focus. It doesn't matter what the ref said. It doesn't matter that I missed my riposte. Focus, focus, focus. And then they're okay, now I'm ready. And they take so much time placing their feet exactly where they want it. And it's like a Zen exercise.
Yeah. Well, if you watch, most people have their little routine, right? There's a couple of jumps, or they move their feet, or right, because you've got split seconds, so you better get it right.
And in the other weapons in foil, which is like what I do the most with as a referee, you will see them, for example, fixing their hair, tying their laces, or just suddenly they have something in the eye, or just sweat. And I mean, to a certain extent, of course, it's being allowed, because it could be that we are getting sweaty when fencing. And but it's about using this time. And if you see you're into a string of bad incidents, you're getting hit 3 times in a row, you need to do something. You need to do something to get back into focus, because it does mean either that the opponent is much better than you. It could be. It happened to me a few times in my career.
Yeah, it happened to all of us. All of us at some point, man.
More often than not. But in my case at least. But you need to, like, it means that you're not focused. It simply means that something, and you need to fix that. And sometimes you even need to take the yellow card for disobeying the referee. If it means that you're focused, after that, it's worth it.
Right. Well, I guess we're gonna leave it there, and we'll take it up next week. And if it's okay with you, I think how to approach the referee in the correct manner would be very beneficial for most people. And actually, if people watch the video, very beneficial for your referee colleagues. Because people will stop being so rude. Well, not rude, but
most of us. I think most of us are nice people though these days.
But everyone's het up. So even if the advice is take a couple of breaths and then say, "Excuse me, sir," right? I mean, even that's great advice, right? If it means that it's going to be less antagonistic between everyone.
Yeah. True. Yeah. But you there are ways you can use, I think, which will work on most referees. I mean, we talk about this between the referees and stuff, but I think I'll get more into that next time.
And hopefully also it'll allow the fencers themselves to get into, hate to use buzzwords, but to get in a more kind of positive or growth mindset, right? I asked the referee, he's give me an answer or she's give me an answer, right? I need to do something with it, and off I go. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, until next week, Mads, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And enjoy this lovely Northern Hemisphere spring day.
Yeah, it's beautiful out there. It's 15 degrees and sunshine now. So great.
All right. Bye.
Bye.